Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Executive Insights Podcast, where we spotlight leaders who are transforming the way entrepreneurs and small businesses approach finance, growth, and strategy. I'm your host, Dallion Broomfield, and today I'm joined with Nick Foster, the principal at Foster Financial, an expert in advanced tax strategies, fractional CFO services, and financial process automation. Nick, welcome to the show. Nick, can you share a bit about your journey as a CPA and advisor and what inspired you to start Foster Financial?
There's a lot to that, so bear with me on the whole story. So I'm actually second generation CPA. So I've been doing taxes since I was 12. So, the ideal situation, full disclosure, was I went into accounting because I thought I could just work part-time, just do taxes and have a part-time gig. But then I graduated college and I went into corporate America. Chops in corporate America, growing up all the way to the CFO level, but I had little kids and I was traveling. And so the work-life balance just wasn't there. And so my stepdad, who is the CPA, was basically like, Nick, with your skills and everything else, you can actually help more people than just a corporate colleague. So, vacation, came back, put my 2 weeks in, and just kind of started from there. Most is from the corporate side, it was you're just helping this one business run. Now the flip side is kind of like I'm a doctor for finances, right? So it's giving back, it's creating value for our clients and helping them see things that they don't see to try and help anticipate A, where their business is going, but then have better financial decisions, plus more of like the thing we're going against right now is the TikTok memes of, oh, you should do this for taxes, right? And so, me and my team are the sounding board, is like, before you make these not very good decisions, why don't you reach out to us and kind of, vet it out before we do it.
Right. That's interesting. My story is very similar. So I grew up my dad was in the oil field, oil and gas industry here in Oklahoma. I grew up, didn't like it. Like I didn't want anything to do with it. It actually annoyed me. But then as I turned 18, I went into the oil field. I ended up working there 12 years and then eventually branched off and did my own thing, started as an entrepreneur. So I get that. So how has your philosophy as proactive communication and the technology driven solution shape the work with your clients?
Well, so, it depends on the client and the vertical in which we operate, right? Because we do small business bookkeeping, and the biggest thing is, they say, out of the three things why businesses fail, number two is they don't know their numbers, right? And so there's a lot of people that think, oh, we can use QuickBooks or whatever, let that just automate and do it itself. But the problem is, if someone's paying Dallin, QuickBooks automation doesn't know how to categorize that, or loans or whatever. It's not there yet. So what we do from a getting in front of it is making sure the numbers are correct, to start forecasting, creating budgets, creating other things to be able to create the story on how the business is running, right? And from a tax play standpoint, by us doing the bookkeeping, or whether we're doing CFO work or whatever, we know their numbers, so we can now anticipate what are the strategies or levers we need to pull throughout the year to save them in taxes, right? And then obviously, once you start, we have some clients that are making a lot of money. And so when you start to get those kind of money, there's all additional tax strategies that are all on the up and up that you can do, but you kind of have to be making that money to be able to move those levers.
Yeah, you gotta have that tax planning put into place. So with that, the world of tax strategy and business advisory is changing fast. What trends or shifts are you seeing right now that excite you the most?
Ooh. Um, what I'm excited for, there's a lot, like, obviously we embrace technology. So and where I'm kind of like, I'm excited for where it can go, but there's a lot of things that just aren't there yet, right? There's a lot of AI that can actually data populate tax returns, but the data population of the tax returns are the easy stuff, are the W-2s, are the just the documents, but not when you get into crazy stuff of a business sells and creating an installment agreement within the tax return or whatever. So I'm excited for where it goes because, the hard part from our side of things is right now, January 31st is a big deadline for us because we have 1099s that we have to submit. So we're doing all the bookkeeping for December right now to get to the 1099s to get those out, right? And then come February 1st to March 15th is all the business deadlines. So, where I'm excited about technology is, the IRS hasn't really thought through this, how it puts the pressure and the stress on the tax preparers of meeting these defined deadlines in such a small timeline, right? And so it's the everything comes in, how do we get it all out? And I think with AI, I think it'll be beneficial to operate that way, to be able to get the data into the system to then just review it and then be able to be more client facing with our clients and giving them more of the personal touch to talk through the tax return, to talk through why this is what it is. What is the story behind it?
Yeah. So, what do you wish more business owners understood about advanced tax planning and the financial clarity of it?
Great question. I would say one is head in the sand is never a solution. So there's a lot of what I always tell people is 12/31 when the ball drops is when a lot of tax strategies go, right? So even this year, some of our clients have been like, "Hey, I want a tax projection in January." And I'm like, "I'm not going to charge you for that because there's no benefit to it, right?" That's our fourth quarter work is kind of how do we get ahead of what's going on in their business and how does the business funnel down to them and what are the different things they need to do. And so there's a lot of clients, whether we're getting clients from other CPA firms, like we're a service-based industry, and within CPAs, the commonality is no one likes to talk to their clients. No one gets the love, the touch, feel, right? And so that's where we're trying to drive it because we have a few clients that are just tax return driven. And so, when we finalize the tax return in March or April or whatever, then they're like, oh, I have a $40,000 tax bill. It's like, well, you did no planning. You didn't want to have the advisory thing. There's some clients that were saving 15, 20, our high net worth individuals were saving them like 300 grand in taxes because of the strategies. So it's being more proactive than reactive.
That's brilliant. I love that. So let's dive in a little bit. Tell us about Foster Financial. Who do you serve, and what sets your approach apart from other firms?
Great question. I would say, who are we, right? So we kind of have four different verticals of our business lines. So we do bookkeeping as stated. We do business personal tax. I do fractional CFO work predominantly for construction companies because the numbers of construction are very complex and how to do the real gap accounting. And then we also do real estate development accounting. So we have probably 25, 30 developments going on that we're doing all of the full service accounting for. So we're doing the draws, dealing with the banks, dealing with the private equity, kind of helping them out. And then obviously there's a third party that is doing the audit and review. And so we're helping them with the financials to get the audit and review done.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you typically move clients from the reactive to proactive financial management, especially during tax season right now?
Well, so let me think about that. Um, I mean, it's communication, right? And I didn't answer kind of what sets us apart is we are a service, and so what we tell all of our clients is If you get to us, we'll get back to you within 24 hours, right? It's about having the personal touch and being able to be a partner in their business, to be able to for them to feel it, right? So, with us doing the bookkeeping, we kind of when we send out the financials every month, we're also sending like a minute video for our bookkeeping clients of like, here's the numbers we see, here's what we're seeing, because there's a lot of small businesses. I always say like if you're building a carburetor, you know that, but you don't know all the nuances of it, right? And so by us doing the bookkeeping, we may send the client the financials, but if they don't know how to read it, they don't know how to understand it, it's just going in a file somewhere, right? Or, they're not looking at it. So the goal is to be more, hey, understand your numbers. What does this mean? And there's so many, whether it be small businesses, big businesses that we deal with, the business owners are so excited for their revenues to be where they are, but it doesn't matter where your revenues are. I've seen clients that have 10 million in revenue and are breaking even or losing money. And then I see other clients that are making 2 million in revenue and so it's understanding the death by paper cuts, that $10 million client, where are your expenses going and what are you driving that you're overspending? Or what is not working? Are you not charging enough for your clients to make it a profitable business? Like there's all that kind of stuff that goes on within it, right? And so like the fractional CFO stuff, there's a lot of controllers out there. Some are good, some are really bad. And so, it's just here's your numbers, right? The goal of being a fractional CFO is now driving okay, let's look at the front of the book. Let's not just look at what's happened a month, 45 days previous. Let's look at the front of the book and how we're going as a company and where do we want to retroact that math to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. It's about education, educating and working as a team to that common goal. If
For
they're
sure.
not educated, then they're making poor decisions for sure. They don't think they're making poor decisions because that's all that they know. So with that in mind, can you share a story where your team's approach made a real difference for a client's facing messy books and or rapid growth?
Ooh. So I have a client that I've been fractional CFO for about 10 years since I started my business.
Well,
He started
congratulations.
out he
Yeah.
started out barely making ends meet, and he had like this is a construction client. He had QuickBooks, and for a construction company to have QuickBooks, it's not efficient. So putting in a new ERP system that made it more beneficial to then be able to track the job, track the cost, track the stuff. Since then we've kind of put in on the job site, we've actually put in like a geo fence for payroll. So, people were just turning in manual time cards. And so by doing just the geo fence that they can't check into the job site, check out of the job site unless they're in that area, was basically saving my client about 50 grand a month in payroll costs because people were probably fraudulently putting time that they were paying that they didn't know if they were there. So I'm so proud of him. He has grown from, a revenue of 5 million to now he has five different companies and he's crushing it. And so he's doing very well and he's a good friend of mine and um, I'm very proud.
Is there any other, because you said the construction niche, but is there any other niches that you really kind of, those niches, like, how to grow them?
Yeah, and so construct, real estate, I know the numbers of real estate, that's a whole other beast, right? And the hard part with accounting is accounting numbers are numbers, right? So it's when I bring on a fractional CFO client, it's I have to get to understand their business, right? But numbers are numbers. So, they always say the riches are in the niches, right? But the thing is with accounting is the skill set we have, it applies to any industry, right? Whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a boutique store, whether, a bar, whatever it is, numbers are numbers, and what's driving the numbers and what's the profitability within it.
Yeah, that's true. So for Foster Financial, what has been the most effective strategy or channel for attracting new clients and growing your business?
So our CRM file, we used to have Keep, and Keep was kind of very sluggish, or we would have to have people do it. We went to Go High Level probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and it's been very beneficial. My EA Carmen is amazing, and she's kind of created it all. But it's the biggest thing is just making sure if a client is reaching out or a potential customer is reaching out, that we're giving them the touch points, giving them the information for the questions they have. So that's kind of what we've been using. I mean, usually when we're getting a client that they want to get on the phone, usually it's me or my operations manager John, and we're kind of going through it. But, in that call, we're kind of understanding what are the pain points, what are going on, and within that 15 to 30-minute call, we're kind of figuring out, okay, are you the right fit for us? I believe, just like I told you before, is it's all about relationship. And so, a pain we've had in the past is, if a client gets an IRS notice, they're looking for us to respond immediately, right? But on the flip side, if we're reaching out to the client, we've had clients in the past that just don't respond to us, right? And so it's got to be a marriage where each person, each team is kind of being accountable to help each other, right? And so I'm kind of going off. I'm not answering your full question, but go high level is the thing. But then how can we help our clients and be a team together?
Yeah. So Go High Level is more of a pipeline, for pipeline for your leads, right? So where you can keep up with them, nothing slips through the cracks. But how do you get people in your pipeline?
So, honestly, we're a referral based business for the most part. It's all about taking care of our clients and making sure they're good and they have no problem referring us. That's how we've kind of scaled and grown over the years, is it's more referral. I being an entrepreneur, you know how it is, down like going from, okay, I just know I'm really good at accounting, but now I have to figure out how to do this, and this, right? And um, so I've done like the Facebook ads, I've done the Google ads, earlier in the piece. Now that's where I'm saying we're blessed that the company has continued to bring on new clients and to continue to grow year over year because of the relationships we create with our clients.
Yeah. So speaking on like Facebook and stuff, what do you think has been the biggest marketing or sales challenge that you've had growing financial or Foster Financial?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
We're talking about like, you talked about Facebook and doing some other things. So what do you think's been the biggest marketing or sales challenge while you've been growing Foster Financial?
I would say there's a few, right? I would say one is defining a qualified lead, right? So, rewind 4 years ago, it was like someone could book a consultation on our website, for a 15-minute consultation, but they were just price checking. If you're just looking at low dollar value, what's the cost of someone doing something? That's not an ideal client for us. We're not the cheapest, but we provide service, right? And so the challenge within that has been pipeline, bringing someone in, but me spending probably 10 to 15 hours a week just on calls that 80% of them weren't qualified, or that, they just wanted a check number. So like on our website now, that's why we have a price calculator, is like before you even book a call and you have this stuff going on, you can kind of see the price range of what it's going to look like, so that we're getting away from that discussion right off the bat, right? Because it's just not efficient for either of us if it's not going to be a fit.
Right. Just curious because we use high level as well. Do you send like as soon as maybe the conversation starts, you can email them like an onboarding form? Do you guys have anything like that? It kind of just the onboarding form basically qualifies them
Yes,
before.
yes. Yeah,
Before.
we have kind of what's your revenues kind of thing to kind of qualify. You know, if we're doing bookkeeping, if a client is making 20 grand, I can't justify charging them. Like they got to grow that before using our services. Like I don't want to steal from the client. And stealing is the wrong word, but it just doesn't make sense, right? If they're making 75 to 80 grand in revenue, now it's like, okay, we're starting to see what you kind of need and how we can help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the same way, and I hate it. I hate turning down people when they're in like that startup phase. I try to help them out as much as I can, but I always go back and tell them the story of like when I first started 6 years ago. I started by cold calling. I was a cold calling fool,
Oh,
right? Didn't have money for marketing, but as you grow, and then you try new things and you get this revenue, and then it just starts to work out for you. So I tell them the same thing, hey, go make your own Facebook post, put your effort into this right here and focus on that, and then get to this point and then come back. And then that's when we're going to be ready.
so what's your
So
ideal client?
my ideal client, well, we like to work with fractional executives and management consultants for one, but my other marketing agency is like a home service marketing agency. I started that agency back in 2020, and our main niche that we work with is like pest control clients or HVAC, roofing, stuff like that. Is what we do. So, what do you think? Are there any other like bottlenecks that you're experiencing around the pipeline, outreach, or lead conversion?
I, I don't know if this is the bottleneck, but I would say it's more of, just how do I want to say it? It's more of having that first consultation and then, the follow-up emails that never get answered, right? So I don't know if I would consider that a bottleneck, but it's kind of like we've spent the time with you to introduce you to us, at least give us the benefit of why you're not going. Or, sometimes it's a 6 month cycle and they finally decide to come with us, but it's been logistically, it's like this doesn't even make sense, right? Like
Right,
let's be personable to each other and just, if you're not going with us, just tell us, right? Or, we've started to just say, hey, we're gonna just close your file because this is not you by you communicating this and not communicating, what we've kind of realized is you're not an ideal client, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Curious though, how many times do you touch with them? Like, how many follow-ups?
You know what? That is a good question that I don't know.
Okay. I'll just,
I'm a CPA, so that's
okay.
what I said. My EA is kind of running that, and she is
Yeah.
so awesome that I'm not. I don't know all the follow-up leads.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
for
know how
for
our G.
listeners out there, if you guys are wondering about the follow-ups, my magic number is 7. I will follow up at least 7 times, and I will. If you don't get the answer by 6 or 7, then that's when I finally say, I like to throw this one out there. I'll say, "Are you still in business?" Dot dot dot. What's going on over there? All right. Well, I love this question, Nick. Get a little personal. So, how do you balance working on your own growth and serving your clients at a high level?
I have an amazing team, right? And so, and I've done a lot of business classes, whether it be strategic coach or I'm part of Front Row Dads, very successful business owners and learning from others. But it's like, it's the who, not how. It's how do I get out of the weeds of certain things? And, from a fractional CFO, I have a great controller that's kind of helping me do the numbers piece. So then I can analyze the data and kind of then present it and have so there's that side, and then I'm going back to my EA Carmen that's helping me with a lot of, or my operations manager. Like it's having the team in place that can do the things that I am not good at or don't fill me up, right? To be able to do the things I want to do to help my clients, right? To be more strategic for my client or for the business, and trying to analyze what's the right data, and I'm not getting caught up in the minutia weeds.
What would you say is one priority that you're focused on right now that you think will make the biggest impact for Foster Financial in 2026?
I mean, I think it's, in all honesty, I think it's the AI piece, right? I think it's taking where are the technologies now and how can we embrace them to create more benefit to our clients, create more value, create more analysis, create more whatever, and not burdening the firm on the stuff that can be done through AI. I think that, and I think, from a business standpoint all around, whether it be your business, my business, or whatever, I think it's really hard for any business to have a spaghetti of processes, strategies, whatever, to then try and put AI into the spaghetti that's already been made, right? To try and unravel those pieces and be like, oh, well, let's maybe fix this little thing, right? I think any business owner that's starting out now, I think is actually has a up in the game because they can start their processes and everything else with AI from the beginning. And that,
Yeah, they have a little like little coach in their pocket,
right.
that a lot of people didn't have 5 years ago. If you could wave a magical wand and solve one growth or marketing challenge for Foster Financial, what would it be?
Uh, it goes back to finding the ideal clients, right? Whether that's the biggest thing from a marketing side. I think, CPAs is a dying industry, and I think that's, operation, and I know this is a marketing podcast, but like my view on it is more from an accounting side. They said 2020, 20% of the CPAs left the business because of COVID.
Right.
And they say in the next 5 years, like 60% of the remaining CPAs are going to retire,
Yeah,
right?
because
So
it's the baby boomers are
it's
retiring.
right.
Yes.
And even like I had a lunch with a very smart kid literally this week, and he was talking about how he's in his final year of college, and he has like 200 in his class going to a finance class, but then when it goes to accounting, it's like 25, right? So, my biggest problem issue is finding the right people with internally, knowing where the company is going or knowing where there's growth is to say, okay, I don't want to oversell and underdeliver is my big thing. And so I've had a hard time finding the right team members that want to be client facing, right? Because you have accountants that are just like down in the weeds, don't want to deal with people, right? Or
Introverts.
it's like, the biggest characteristic to bring a team member on is heart. Like, do you care? Because, Qasim Aslam, who's a big social media presence, good friend of mine, I loved his terminology where he said work is love, right? And if we can reframe our brain to be like what we're doing is giving love to someone and we're creating value, and there's something within that internally we can be proud of, then that solves a lot of the issues, right? So I answered your question, but then pivoted, so I apologize now.
No worries. I mean, I actually love this part of it because culture in your team is the biggest part. And um, what we like to do is we like to learn like what are their goals also, like what's your employees goals, what do they want out of life, and when you can define that with them and then show them the pathway through your company of, hey, we're going to all accomplish our goals together, that's where you really start to build a culture and everybody is all on board because everybody's needs are getting met at the end of the day, both personally and professionally. I love that.
Yeah, it's the mantra that I love is, as a business owner, our arrows are supposed to be out helping people, whether it be your employees, whether it be your clients. That's your goal. And any business owner that's actually doing well, but it's all about their personal arrows coming back into them, you're losing because that's not serving anyone but the individual, right? And so,
And eventually that will fail.
yes.
It'll burn, that candle will burn out. So for business owners listening, what's one piece of advice you wish more people took to heart about a sustainable, financially sound business?
Well, I said one about, I don't care about revenues, I care about profit, right? I think two would be, anyone, you need to know the numbers and the numbers and creating a budget and creating a system in place for, our job as a fractional CFO is kind of make our clients eat their vegetables, right? Is like, okay, you said your marketing budget was going to be 10 grand and now you spent 50. Okay, where are we taking it from to make it still hum where it should be? Or, talking about the strategic place of going, if you're hiring an employee, you got to think about, okay, if your revenue's here, your gross profit is here. If you're operating at a 20% gross profit and you want to bring in a new employee, well, how much more revenue do you have to drive to make that make sense as a business, right? It's going to take a lot more money and revenue to pay for that employee. So it's just thinking about things differently, right? Or, from a tax position, like there's certain things that we have small business owners that are running expenses personally that should be a business expense, right? And to understand as a business owner, you essentially are getting based on your tax bracket. If you have a cell phone bill, let's say it's $100, essentially if you're running it through the business, you're only paying $75 on it because you have $25,000 in tax that you would pay after tax that now you're putting it in the business. So you're almost getting a 25% discount on a lot of expenses that are, can we justify this expense to the business?
Right. That's good. Hey, I'm learning things at this point. So great, Nick. That's brilliant. Where can listeners connect with you to learn more about Foster Financial?
Yeah, just go to our website, fosterfinancialcpa.com. There's a contact us form you can kind of reach out to, and that kind of gets you down the path of getting on the phone with, like I said, me or John, my operations manager, and kind of helping solve the problems, right? And the biggest thing is for people out there that are listening is head in the sand is not the approach. If you don't know your numbers throughout the year and we have clients that we come in that they're like, "Oh yeah, we just get our financials at the end of the year from our CPA or from our bookkeeper." You can't operate a business that way. You need to know where your numbers are at all times to be able to operate your business, because if you're losing money, you're not going to know till the end of the year, and that's you're running blind.
Right. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights. For more conversations with leaders in finance and business advisory, be sure to subscribe to the Executive Insights podcast. Nick, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.